The veteran fireboat had seen many disasters, but none like this. This day, the day the world stood still, would change society forever, and following the collapse of the Twin Towers, Firefighter and her friends were the only hope for Lower Manhattan to put out the flames. As the dust settled, Firefighter would stand by dutifully, extinguishing the fire and bringing back hope to New York City in its darkest hour. Welcome to Shipwreck Sunday. My name is Eleanor. Just a quick disclaimer for our younger audience before we dive in. This story may be disturbing to some, so viewer discretion is advised. Okay everyone, let's get into it. Firefighter was a fireboat that was authorized for construction in early 1937 by Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia based upon designs submitted by noted naval architect William Francis Gibbs and his firm Gibbs & Cox. If his name sounds familiar, good, it should. He designed numerous World War II era warships and cargo ships, including the Liberty ships and the Fletcher-class destroyers. Firefighter was laid down at United Shipyards as Hull 856 and was christened and launched on August 28, 1938 by Eleanor Grace Flanagan. After her fitting out and sea trials, Firefighter was commissioned on November 16, 1938, entering service that day for the New York City Fire Department at 9 a.m. with Engine 57 at Pier 1 at the Battery, which would be later organized as Marine Unit 1. Before we get too much further into her career, let's stop and take a look at her specs. Firefighter was a fireboat with her net tonnage sitting at 220.44 net tons. She was 134 feet long, had a beam of 32 feet wide, a height of 25 feet tall, and a draft of 9 feet deep. As for propulsion, she was equipped with twin 1500 horsepower, 16-cylinder, 3968 CID General Motors Winton diesel engines, which gave the ship the average speed of 14 knots. As for water pumping capacity, she would pump 20,000 gallons per minute and average 7 to 11 crew. Her hull and keel are bright red with a white superstructure and one red smokestack emblazoned with the FDNY number 9. She was ready for action. And action she'd see. If you're enjoying this video, leave me a like, subscribe to the channel for more content, and let me know down in the comment section below. Okay, let's continue with her career. Firefighter would serve as part of Marine Unit 1 through the mid-1960s. During this time, she'd see two very infamous flames, among numerous other vessel and pier fires. The first was the fire and capsizing of SS Normandy in 1942. Now, we have a full video on the Normandy if you're interested, but I'll give you the gist here. SS Normandy was a French ocean liner that was requisitioned by the United States for efforts in World War II, being renamed USS Lafayette. She was docked in New York at Pier 88 next to RMS Queen Mary and RMS Queen Elizabeth. While being converted into the troop ship Lafayette, on February 9, 1942 at 2:30 p.m., sparks from a welding torch ignited a stack of life vests filled with the flammable Kapuk that was stored in Normandy's first-class lounge. Quickly, the fire spread over the woodwork, which was covered in a highly flammable varnish, and with the fire protection system having been disconnected, and the French inlets being incompatible with American hoses, fighting this blaze would be impossible. And this is where Firefighter comes into play. She and another fireboat we've covered in the past, John J. Harvey, arrived on scene and began pumping thousands of gallons of water onto the ship. This, coupled with onshore firemen pumping water onto the blaze, the ship became very unstable and Normandy would capsize at the pier. She'd be scrapped in 1946. The next year, in 1943, Firefighter would be involved in the fire aboard the ammunition-laden SS El Estero. We have not covered her yet, so if that's something you'd like to see, let me know. Anyway, the gist of that one is that SS El Estero, a general cargo steamship, was laden with 1,365 tons of mixed munitions on April 24, 1943, and was preparing to leave Cavens Point Terminal off Jersey City, New Jersey at approximately 5:30 p.m. when a boiler flashback started a fire on oily water in her bilges, and quickly it spiraled out of control. Immediately, the Jersey City Fire Department deployed 5 fire trucks and 2 of their fireboats, along with 60 volunteers from the U.S. Coast Guard to fight the flames. She was, unfortunately, moored directly next to 2 other ships also heavily loaded with ammo and 2 ammunition-laden boxcars on shore. Should she explode, more than 5,000 tons of ammo was in danger of going off, which is comparable to a tactical nuclear weapon. Due to the intensity and location of the fire on board, the sea cocks were blocked off so the ship could not be scuttled. Upon learning this, the New York City Fire Department deployed two of their most powerful fireboats, John J. Harvey and Our Girl Firefighter. The girls arrived on scene at 6:30 p.m., and both boats ran hoses up to the Coast Guardsmen on the burning ship, taking positions right beside El Estero. 3 tugboats put lines on El Estero and began pulling her off the pier and out into open waters through the Narrows. At this moment, the ship's cargo could explode at any time, but regardless of this imminent danger, the tugboats, Coast Guardsmen, and firefighters relented, trying to save as much of the ship and cargo as possible. The fireboats moved to a shallow part off Constable Hook and began pumping 38,000 gallons of water per minute into El Estero's cargo holds, swamping the ship and sending her to the bottom. By 11:30 p.m. that night, all hot spots were extinguished, and what is considered to have been the single greatest threat to New York City during World War II thankfully passed without major incident or loss of life, thanks to Firefighter and John J. Harvey. Shifting with the majority of commercial steamship line freight operations from Manhattan to the Brooklyn waterfront, Firefighter served with Marine Unit 8 and Engine 223 at the 37th Street Pier through 1967 before shifting once again to the Homeport Pier in Stapleton, where she joined Marine Unit 9, an assignment which made her first due marine firefighting asset at the heavily trafficked Narrows of New York Harbor and throughout the tight confines of both the Arthur Kill and Kill Van Col. With both waterways already heavily utilized by marine traffic calling at ports on the Chemical Coast, the rise of both the Port Newark Elizabeth Marine Terminal and Howland Hook Marine Terminal saw an increasing number of container ships transiting the same waters. These conditions led to several major vessel collisions and shoreside fires during Firefighter's tenure in Staten Island, but with the 1973 collision of SS Esso Brussels and SS Sea Witch would prove to be the largest fires she would ever fight single-handedly. For her and her crew's part in the response, firefighting and rescue of 31 surviving crewmen from the burning SS Sea Witch, the Firefighter was named a gallant ship and her crew received the American Merchant Marine Seamanship Trophy. To date, Firefighter remains the only fireboat to have ever received this award. A 1974 article in the New York Times described how fires in New Jersey frequently resulted in requests to the FDNY Commissioner for the loan of Firefighter. Once authorized, it would take Firefighter approximately 45 minutes to arrive at waterfront communities such as Carteret. In 1989, Firefighter was declared a U.S. National Historical Landmark. She was already a decorated boat, and she'd faced her greatest challenge next. Thank you so much to our amazing YouTube members and patrons. If you'd like to have some awesome perks like episodes a full day in advance, join our YouTube memberships today. Okay, it's time to get into the events of September 11th, 2001. Okay, the way I have to talk about this event is very censored because YouTube is very strict in regards to this topic specifically. To summarize as best I can for those who don't remember it or just don't know about it, on September 11th, 2001, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City were destroyed and collapsed due to a coordinated attack against the United States. I unfortunately cannot show you pictures of that attack either, but I can show you what the towers looked like prior to the attack. On September 11th, Firefighter, along with the rest of the FDNY Marine units, responded to the World Trade Center and took up a station at the foot of Albany Street in Battery Park City and began pumping at her maximum capacity to supply water to the landside units fighting fires in the still-standing towers. Following the collapse of both towers and the resultant failure of the majority of the water mains serving Lower Manhattan, Firefighter and the rest of the FDNY Marine units became the sole source of water for firefighting at Ground Zero. Firefighter would hold the line here for 3 full weeks until sufficient repairs were completed on landside water mains to permit her release from what had been her longest emergency response call. Without fireboats like her and John J. Harvey, the fires at Ground Zero could have been much more devastating than they already were. She went into the shipyard in 2003 to repair her worn-out engines, then resuming her post and continuing to respond to marine emergencies, including a gasoline barge explosion in Port Mobile, Staten Island in February 2003, and to the ditching of U.S. Airways Flight 1549 on the Hudson River in 2009. I don't typically cover aircraft, but I'll give you the gist of that one since it's a really cool story. They even made a movie about it starring Tom Hanks called Sully. So U.S. Airways Flight 1549 was a regularly scheduled U.S. Airways flight from New York City's LaGuardia Airport to Charlotte and Seattle that ditched in the Hudson River shortly after takeoff on January 15, 2009 due to a bird strike-induced engine failure. The Airbus A320 operating the flight, registered N106US, struck a flock of Canadian geese shortly after takeoff from LaGuardia, losing all engine power. Given their position in relation to the available airports and their low altitude, pilots Chesley Sully Sullenberger and Jeffrey Skiles decided to glide the plane and ditch on the Hudson River near Midtown Manhattan, doing so without significant damage to the plane. Miraculously, all 155 people on board were alive and rescued by nearby boats, including firefighter. There were no fatalities, though 100 were injured, 5 of them badly. The time from the bird strike to the ditching was less than 4 minutes and was dubbed the Miracle on the Hudson by then Governor of New York David Paterson, and firefighter was a witness to this miracle. Eventually, she was replaced in frontline service by the fireboat Firefighter 2 in 2010 at Marine Unit 9, and so she was placed into reserve status at the former Brooklyn Navy Yard where she remained in FDNY custody until October 15, 2012. On that date, she was transferred to the new ownership of the nonprofit Fireboat Firefighter Museum. Firefighter is now operated by an all-volunteer group dedicated to preserving the historic fireboat in running condition as a museum ship, befitting her over 70 years of service to the people and mariners of New York City and New York Harbor. Now as a museum ship, Firefighter found a home in Greenport, New York, on Long Island's North Fork and relocated to the village from the Brooklyn Navy Yard in February of 2013. Eventually shifting to the village's commercial pier in accordance with their contractual agreement with the village, the museum has continued to grow in popularity and was granted tax-exempt status by the IRS in October 2013 as a tax-exempt nonprofit organization. The museum was awarded a National Park Service Maritime Heritage Grant in 2014 to pursue hull upkeep and preventative maintenance shipyard work. Gathering matching funds for the National Park Service grant lasted through December 2016, when Firefighter reported to Goodison Shipyard in Kingston, Rhode Island for 4 months of shipyard work, overhaul, and hull inspection. Completed in April 2017, Firefighter returned to Greenport, New York in her as-built late 1930 FDNY metal appearance. As of the summer of 2021, she is currently on exhibit at the Mystic Seaport Museum in Mystic, Connecticut. If you'd like to support Firefighter by donating to help with her upkeep and the organization's mission of keeping Firefighter around for the next generation, please visit americasfireboat.org. I'll leave a link to their website in the description of this episode so we can send them our love and support. Something special that Firefighter also has are 3 ship's cats, Iggy, Boo, and Captain Morgan. These 3 cats all live on and serve on Firefighter. Firefighter is an incredible fireboat with a rich history of heroism and service, and I hope her legacy continues for many decades to come.